Hey everyone, welcome. We made it to Tuesday, friends. It's hard to believe. Can't believe that this journey has kind of come to an end. Even though I thought I was going to end it yesterday, I decided to have one more session. And this session is going to be helpful to folks that went through this series. But I also want to spend some time for folks that maybe didn't get to go through the series and talk a little bit about what we've been doing since Friday. So, hi, if I haven't met you yet, I am Kara North and I am an instructional designer. And I had this wild idea last Thursday that I should do something to help out. So, a little bit about me. I just recently transitioned from a higher education instructional design job into a leadership role in a corporate learning and development function. And I have a lot of time on my hands, not necessarily because I've changed jobs, but because I'm also a PhD student. And actually, tomorrow I defend my PhD candidacy. So I don't have school in the evening. I saw kind of this need of a lot of people wanting to come into instructional design, and the water is great. You're welcome. Hop on in. And I wanted to do my part to really try to help because I felt that there was a really big gap between if people were learning about it, whether they were a teacher looking to transition into it, or maybe you are a graduate student and you're starting to study this in your graduate studies. I saw a huge gap between kind of what these books tell you about what instructional design is versus what it actually looks like. So, starting on Friday, I've kind of walked through the entire process of what it would look like to build out something. And throughout this, I was hoping to kind of give you all guidance on things you could build for your portfolio and things that you may want to consider if you're looking to do that. So, great news is I've opened up all the resources for you. So if you go in the button right below me, you can actually click and you'll have access to all the resources that everyone else did throughout the various live streams that we had. So I want to look over here. Thank you all. I appreciate that. PhD has not been a fun time, but I'm glad that I did it. That whole like self journey stuff, I'll be very positive today. My pal JRock is here. Thank you, JRock, for being here. You all should follow him. He is fantastic. May or may not have told some stories about JRock throughout this series, and he just wasn't named. Kim Lindsey, hello. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, I do defend tomorrow afternoon, so we'll see what happens. Basically, I wrote 200 pages and they can ask me anything about them. So it's a 2-hour firing squad. They can ask me what I wrote and why I wrote it. So please have mercy on my soul. So anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and just walk through for folks that weren't part of the stream because for better or for worse, again, I keep it real. There were a lot of really hateful messages that I got for doing this. And actually, the day I had Alex Salas on here, I was in the green room before this, talking to him, and I said, I just don't want to do this. Like, it's not worth it. I don't want to deal with the trolls. And he's like, that's not the Kara North I know. I'm like, okay, touche. So I did actually get to use the block button on LinkedIn quite a bit, which was cool. I did boot somebody out of the chat on one session, so it hasn't been smooth sailing all the way. You have to deal with some of the people, and people were mad, I think, because this was something I offered free and they didn't get in, and I understand that. But I did have to limit it for a couple reasons. One, the way that this platform is set up, I do pay for this out of my own pocket, and originally I only had 100 seats, but then I saw so many people wanting in. I went ahead and upped it to the next level, which cost me about $50 out of pocket. And then like the next level is, gosh, like a couple hundred, I think. So I love you all, but not that much. I didn't want to spend that much money. So because I hit the maximum of 250 on those other recordings, I wanted to keep it. And also, anytime if I did open it up and I didn't cap it at the 250, it would have charged me per person accessing the recording, and I didn't want to pay that. So no offense, I didn't. Plus, as you all know, if you have stuck around this series, I have tried my best, and the folks in the boxes with me too. So Jack is here. She was one of those folks. Alex Salas, Toddy Norum, and Nyla Spooner. We want to keep it real because we feel like a lot of times, especially if you're looking to make the transition to instructional design, you probably have a lot of questions about like, what does this look like, or what's it like to work in a corporate environment? What's it like to work in a higher education environment? And as you all know, I was a little unfiltered and I put it out there. And no offense, I don't know if I want that floating stand around some of the stuff that I said. Not that it was necessarily bad, but it definitely was kind of my perspective of it. So those are some of the reasons that I've kind of shut down with the recordings. But anyway, I'm glad that you're here. So if you are here and you're like, what on earth did you all do? Let's just go through a quick little recap. And then basically what I want to do for the rest of the session is I want to walk you through, now that you've kind of seen the process from start to finish, what should your next 30 days be? What are some things you can do to really capitalize on this? So if you're familiar with Addy, that's kind of what I use to walk through. Now, I do know that that's a hot button issue for a lot of people. My friend Bobo actually sent me a text message this morning that there was a debate on Twitter through some academics about Addy, and I wanted to say something, but I didn't. I was like, nope, not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm not going to get involved. But the reason that I've used kind of the Addy to talk you through this is because I think it is a good starting point, especially if you are a newer instructional designer. So again, if you're just joining us, all the resources from all the live streams are in the button below this video. So resources from live streams and 30-day plan, you can click that. You have access to everything that I shared with the folks, and that did take a lot of time to build. So not only do you have just like little resource pages, but I'll get to that here in a minute about some of the other things. So for the first part of that, A is analysis. And so in your analysis, you got to figure out, what am I doing, right? And a common thing that I hear, and Jack and JRock and others, Kim in the chat, please, I know you all feel the same way I do probably about this, is a lot of people are like, I can't build a portfolio because all of my stuff is proprietary. Have you ever heard that before? I've heard it a ton. And a lot of times that is true. You don't necessarily want to share any information from your organization. I had quite an NDA in my new job that I signed. And so now I'm just like really on pins and needles. I mean, I don't even like share publicly, like when I'm talking like this, the company I work for, because I'm kind of like spooked by my NDA, but you can look it up on LinkedIn. But anyway, um, if you have a problem, kind of figure out what it is that you want to build and where to go. One of my favorite places to go, and this is something that I shared, and you have a link to it, is Chris and Anthony, who's an instructional designer at Amazon, started a website called Go Design Something. So it's godesignsomething.co, and in that, basically, she gives you little prompts that you can do. So what we did the first night of the stream is we went to that site. I showed people, and we decided to pick this particular prompt right here on the screen. So develop an educational video or interactive reading on your bill, excuse me. So we picked that because one, it's a pretty robust topic, but two, there's a lot of different things that you could do with that, right? So that was kind of the one that we picked. And I was going to pull something else up while I was thinking about it. So just give me 1 second here. As I'm doing that, Jack has another great suggestion about if you have something you can like white out or remove different specifications of the company. You sure can. That's another great way of doing it. And I think I also shared on that particular night that we talked about this. I have a friend, her name is Mary Kropp. She's the Chief Learning Officer for Bluetooth SIG. And one of her biggest pet peeves that she talks about is when people share proprietary stuff, she automatically disqualifies them for the hiring process after she sees that. That is just something she is a big stickler on. She talks about it all the time. That's just not what she likes to see of that. She thinks that if you're in this profession, you should have professional ethics with that. So I think that that is good. Bear with me here. My computer, of course, is being a little sluggish. So what I was actually going to queue up here, which I will, there we go, I got it here. No, I don't. It just went away again. Hold that thought 1 second here. Okay, I got it queued up here, so I can show that here in a minute. Thanks for your patience. As always, you all are amazing. Yeah, Kim, you have a great point too, that it's really hard to do that with e-learning, but it is not impossible. You can recreate maybe a part of a course, but maybe not all. They might need a sample. Absolutely. That's another great way of kind of keeping it, again, within reason, within those kind of ethical boundaries of what you're doing. So again, night one, so that Friday, we picked this prompt, and then I walked through what that would look like to analyze this. And so if you're familiar, and I still have it right here, the great Dr. Michael Allen, one of my professional knowledge crushes, and just genuinely nice human being, and also alumni of the Ohio State University. Wrote that book, Leaving Addie for Sam. Love it. And in it, he has some really great kind of analysis scoping questions. And so I shared that with folks. Again, you have access to it in the button. If you go to session 1, you'll see the link there. And then what I did was I just basically hypothetically answered those questions. And so by doing that, by hypothetically kind of answering those questions, it's going to kind of set parameters and boundaries over about what we're going to build. So again, I just kind of went through it. I just answered some of them, but some really great questions specifically like, who are the stakeholders? So who are people that need to be involved in the project? What budget is available? I don't know about you all, but a lot of places I've worked have had champagne taste on a tap water budget. My friend JRock, he is the king of stretching that shoestring budget, making a lot of his own assets. And that's the way it is a lot of times, right? So I think that's really important to consider too. But if you want to look at all those questions, you can get there in the plan and the resources. All right, so we talked about that. So that was the A, that was the analysis. And then the next night, we talked a little bit about the design. So how are we going to design this? And because what we picked was a video, I shared some resources from my favorite place to go to get video support is TechSmith. And TechSmith makes a lot of great products. One is Camtasia, the other is Snagit. And it's one of my favorite, again, project tools that I use. And then I ended up having Alex Salas come on the following night and he demoed Camtasia. But the reason I like going to TechSmith is because they actually have a team of instructional designers that work for them, that they provide really great content to the learning and development community. But here was just some tips that I pulled out from a blog post that I shared. Again, you have links to everything, I promise. I worked really hard to make sure you have links to everything that I'm talking about in the button below. But about how you would write a script. And we talked a little bit about why scripts are important, especially when you're building out videos. A lot of times it is really critical to have that, again, to put a boundary around it, to put a scope on it. All of that's really critical. But the one thing I really wanted you to take away from this part when we were talking about it was knowing how to tell a story and really thinking about how to make that connection with that person that is on the other side of this. Because I think a lot of times, especially when you're kind of in the middle of an instructional design, you forget that there's a human on the other side of what we're doing here. And even though I'm like speaking into this camera here, I know that there's people on the other side, which is cool, right? And I feel like we, especially now with COVID, like that's kind of how we interact with people. But being able to tell a story, being able to go beyond, welcome to this course. Your learning objectives are blah, blah, blah. You know what that's a cure for? Insomnia. Right. So if you have trouble sleeping at night, go find one of those courses. I guarantee you'll be asleep in 5 minutes flat. Or if you're like me, just watch a Ken Burns documentary. That also puts me to sleep. Don't know about you all. No offense. Ken Burns, really great person, but puts me to sleep. Okay. So we talked about the script, and then after we talked about the script, I also talked about storyboarding. And in storyboarding, that's where kind of the magic happens. And so when you're in that analysis phase, for me personally, not only am I asking a lot of those scoping questions, but I'm also like, give me everything you have. I want the fire hose of content. I want every single thing that you have. I'm a hoarder. I'm hoarding all that information about this particular topic. And then as you're going through the storyboard phase, that's when you comb through it. You kind of dig through, like a little rat. You're like what's his name, Templeton from Charlotte's Web, right? So you're at the fair, like all the food's flowing, you right, and you're just like going through and like you're piecing everything together, right? Hey Bobo, good to see you. But yeah, you're like going through, you're getting everything. That is the storyboarding process. So you're pulling out kind of those snippets of information, the things that you think are valuable, because remember, this is not the final piece of it, right? So you're going to make that storyboard, but then you're going to do what? You're going to get that feedback from those stakeholders that you identified in that analysis phase. Make sure that what you put together is accurate. Make sure that it is the way that it should be out there. Because remember, they have kind of the knowledge expertise, but as Jack Hutchinson would say, that you have the process expertise, right? So you are that process expert. So being able to pair with that, I can't tell you how important that symbiotic relationship is with your SME. Love them or hate them, you need them, right? So it's really important to kind of bring that together. So again, in that particular phase, so we started with the analysis, we talked a little bit about the design, and then on Monday, what did we do? Was it Monday? It was Sunday. We went into the development. And in the development, we did two things. So I wanted to make this very low cost, low barrier, right? And what I decided to do was feature two tools that I knew had good trials and one that I knew that was freemium, I'm going to use that term, and I knew that it would create code where you could embed it in your portfolio. That first one there is H5P. H5P has two instances if you're not familiar. So one is an org and one is a com. Org, I believe, is free. Com costs money. Com has a 30-day trial. Org is free, but the issue is it has limited features. So you can only select maybe, I think, 14 different types of content to create versus the .com, I think, has, gosh, maybe 20 or 30 different types. So in this part, I was the one that kind of led this part, and I, talked a little bit about what that would look like. I showed you two different examples. One would be a hotspot interaction. So we had a bill, and then I put the little markers on for the hotspot, and then you could click on it and then get more information about the topics of the bill. The other one was an interactive video. So for that one, just to show you the functionality, because my computer was a complete jerkwad that day, could not render the video that I had created, because what I wanted to do was build a video and then bring it in. Of course not. It wasn't going to work. It did not want to work. It was mad it was working over the long holiday weekend, but you know what? It got over it. It's okay. We're still kind of fighting a little bit, but it's okay. So I curated a video, brought it in from YouTube just to show you what that interactive video piece looks like in H5P. And then Mr. Latino Heat, Alex Salas, hopped in the boxes, pulled out Camtasia, and just drop mic, right? So actually, yeah, here we go. It was like mic drop, right? He killed it. He absolutely killed it. So he was, just killing it. He was doing fantastic, and it was just wonderful, and really appreciated it. So what I want to do now, and that's what I was trying to pull up here in a minute, I wanted to share what he shared on social media with it and what he built. So if you hang on just a moment, I will share with you what he put on social media of the final product. Now, I don't know if the audio will come in from the computer, so hang on one moment. Hey, Greg Nagy, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. All right, let me share this real fast. Let me share my LinkedIn here, because he shared it on LinkedIn and he shared it on Twitter. So give me one moment here. Okay, so let me make this big. Okay. Please ignore my LinkedIn notifications. I try to keep them clean, but Okay, so here's what he shared. Let me make this bigger. And then again, I don't know if the video, I don't know if y'all can hear the audio or not. Let me know if you can hear it or not. No, okay, tartar sauce. Okay, you know what? I don't know if I unplug if it would work. But anyway, maybe you can see it. Let me see if I can, I'll see if I can get a link to it to share it as well. But he made this in less than 45 minutes. And this used the script that we wrote for the electric company. And he built all this in Camtasia. He built it with free assets. And he paired it with the wonderful croonings, beautiful croonings of Josh Risser and David Gilbert, who are professional voiceover artists that were kind enough to donate their time to this project too, which I'm eternally grateful. And if you've never heard of professional audio, it is definitely needed. At least I'm not good with professional audio at all, but I really appreciated their time. So let me go ahead and close that out. If JRock, Jack, somebody, one of my pals would get that link for me, I would be forever grateful to you. Not that I'm not already, because you all are awesome, but somebody could get the link to Alex's video so others can check it out. That would be wonderful. Okay, So again, Alex showed off the power of Camtasia. You do have a 30-day trial, I believe, with Camtasia if you did want to try it out. I can't say enough good things about it. I like it because it's easy to use, and I feel like if you learn the interface of Camtasia, then you can definitely kind of, again, learn to use some of these other more robust products. So like, not to put Greg Nagy on the spot, he's my former coworker at OSU. I think Greg uses a bunch of Adobe stuff. So yeah, it just kind of depends on the learning curve there, but love Camtasia. I think that it is great. All right, so after we did H5P and Camtasia, yesterday we talked a little bit about implementation and where you would put this stuff, right? So where would this stuff go? Where would you put it? So if you remember our prompt actually had a couple of different things. So one in particular instance of our prompt said that this was going to be part of an onboarding strategy for the new customers of the electric company. So I demoed MailChimp. And again, MailChimp is another tool that is free. I shared with you some of my thoughts about MailChimp. I think that it would definitely differentiate you in your portfolio if you use MailChimp. If I saw MailChimp on someone's learning and development portfolio, I would probably think that person had pretty good business savvy and thinking beyond a learning management system. So easy to build. The MailChimp example there, I built that in 5 minutes using the templates there, and super easy to use. The other one was I demoed in Canvas. So just to show you what that looked like. So if you're looking to go into higher education, would be a higher education instructional designer. Canvas typically is a learning management system that a lot of higher education institutions use. And then also, if you are in corporate, Instructure has another LMS, which is a corporate LMS called Bridge that has a very similar interface to Canvas. So I feel like if you can kind of get your way around Canvas, you'd also be set up for success for Bridge if you have access to that. And in that, I showed you what SCORM looked like, how to upload like an articulate storyline file, and then again, to embed it into a page. So that's pretty much what we did yesterday. Plus, we talked about evaluation and how important evaluation is. I know he's still not here, even because he is super swamped right now, but my friend Joe Suarez says ADDIE, ADDIE, is actually pronounced ADDI because the E is typically silent. And he says that because a lot of times evaluation is an afterthought. So I talked to you a little bit about how important it is to evaluate each step of the way, evaluate what questions you're asking, evaluating your design choices. Another one, and this actually didn't happen to me, this happened to a peer of mine, but I will tell this story real briefly. Last summer or 2 summers ago, I had a peer who was creating a learning interaction about it was for an educational psychology course. It was a lunchroom scene about kind of the tensions of being a teenager and, all that fun stuff that no one misses. And she created it. She worked with the faculty member, built it out, got implemented, and some of the feedback that was received by students was, well, the person that wrote this must have been a middle class white person because that's not the way that it is, right? So after hearing that story, it certainly made me a little bit more aware of, am I actually including more diversity and more perspectives in the way that I'm scoping something, that I am creating something? So that story made me a better instructional designer, hearing her go through that. But I think it's also very critical, again, in that evaluation piece. Is this something that the language is kind of a barrier? Is this something that the perspective is a little bit of a barrier? So the more you can get more people around the table, and again, real world, very difficult to do a lot of times with various constraints. But if you at least have the intentionality there and at least you plan it in, it will make it a little bit better along the way. Also, drop the mic myself on my thoughts on net promoter scores when it comes to evaluation. Long story short, asking somebody on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely they are to share the learning experience or recommend the learning experience to another person is definitely not something that you can use as a valuable metric, in my opinion, because that tells you nothing about the knowledge transfer of the learning experience. All that is an ego check and a Yeah, woohoo. Yeah, no. So another question that you may ask, and again, I shared Dr. Will Tallheimer's Performance Focused Smile Sheets book. Have a link to that also in the resources. Favorite question of all time from that book that I try to use every single time is on a scale of 1 to 5, from 1 being I need more assistance to 5, I could teach my peer this. How likely or confident are you in your ability to apply this on the job? Just beautiful question. I love it so much. Yes, JRock, that's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, Telling Ain't Training is probably still my all-time favorite book just because my former manager who passed away bought that for me. But I think that's probably why it's my all-time favorite because it's sentimental value. But Performance Focused Smile Sheets is definitely worth every penny that you have. So that was pretty much it. We did that, Kim, in 4 days, 8 hours, and it was a lot, but it was really fun, and I had a blast doing it, minus some of the issues that I had that I talked about earlier, but, thank goodness I have thick skin overall, but it was really tough dealing with some of the trolls, but I'm here, whatever. So, I wanna check the polls here. I did put a poll in here just to see how many of you were here because again, I wanted to open this up and just give kind of this brief overview because I know a lot of you could not get in. And for you that couldn't get in and you sent nice messages, thank you. Thank you for not being a jerk. I really appreciate it. But I just wanted to give, again, a very broad overview of everything that we've done, everything we talked about. And first of all, just recognize the folks that are here that went through that. You all did a lot too. So it wasn't just me up here talking and having folks in kind of helping me with this, but you all were here too, and you all sacrificed your time and talents to be here. So you definitely deserve a round of applause for everything that you've done so far. Okay. So you're here, you're obviously wanting to be an instructional designer. So let's talk about what you need to do the next 30 days. How's that sound? And as I'm doing that, I'm going to pop over. I see there's some questions. Then I got to share my screen again. Okay. Have two questions here. I'll go ahead and start with Sophia's. Sophia asked, should L&D be reactive instead of proactive for learning opportunities? Is it necessary for the learner to experience the challenge of not knowing in order to really learn and engage with the content? Here's the answer that you probably don't want to hear. I think it depends. I always feel like and I think that is also kind of something that's challenging for new instructional designers is, again, you are portrayed, the instructional design process is often portrayed as this beautiful, linear, easy package, right? And it's not. It's not at all. So it is messy. There's a lot of different things going on, and it's not that way. So I think it totally depends on the organization, and it totally depends also, I think, on where learning development is in the organization. That also matters because if the learning and development is part of operations, maybe they might have more pull versus if they're part of IT versus they're part of HR. It just really also depends on where they are in the business. I definitely have seen a difference, even though this is week 2 of my new job, being in operations, I really dig it because I feel like I have the people that make the decisions and the people that okay and grant things. They're my peers. So I could probably get more things done where I'm sitting now. Whereas where I was previously, I didn't really have that autonomy or authority. So I think it is difficult. So I'm interested to see what maybe some of you all say. I apologize. I don't want to mispronounce your name because I hate when people do mine, but AINE. You asked about the recordings of the previous sessions. If you signed up for the previous recordings and you got in, if you signed up in the other sessions, you do have access to the recordings. If you did not get in, I am not sharing those recordings outside. I said it a little bit earlier, but I am very unfiltered. I share some things that I don't want publicly put out, especially about former employers and various things like that. So I am being very I guess, greedy, if you want to say that, but it also costs me money if people access the recordings in this platform. And since I've already donated time and money, I don't want to do that anymore. So I hope you understand. But I may do something like this again. You never know. But if you were signed up in the previous, you do have access to recordings. But if you don't have access, unfortunately, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, Kim, I completely agree. Nothing's ever ideal. Sometimes you just have to have the content knowing that you made things better. So, that is the way that it is sometimes with it. It just really kind of does depend. Let's see what the wise queen Jack has to say. So she believes that L&D needs to be both reactive and proactive. And there are some things like COVID-19 that no one would have been able to prepare for. Absolutely. My favorite meme out of all this, by the way, and I think I saw it on LinkedIn. Somebody had, who is the tech disruptor at my organization? It said like chief tech officer, CEO, or COVID-19. And like COVID-19 was circled. And I was like, yep, pretty much. I think a lot of places learned very quickly that they could do more stuff than, what they thought they could with COVID. So, all right, bear with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the plan and talk you all through it. And then I'm also going to, because I have a lot of pals in here, and I hate just being in the boxes by myself, I'm going to invite a couple people to join me. Some faces you may know, some faces you may not, but good people just to pop in here with me. So I'm not sitting here talking by myself. All right. Okay, so let me pull this up. Thanks for your patience as always. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be sharing this plan here.
I just lost my audio.
I see you and hear you. Are you there? No? Yes? Maybe? Hey, Jack, can you hear us? We'll give Jack a minute. She will come back. I did invite Mr. Jonathan Rock. If you don't know him, you should connect with him. He is quite the hoot. I'm also going to invite on Kim Lindsey if she would like to join as well. Hey, Jack, can you hear me? All right, Jack will be back, maybe. If not, that's fine. Hey, I can hear you.
Wow. This is
Lindsey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Let me move the screen so I'm not looking off to the side here.
You're fine. As we're getting Jack settled, would you like to introduce yourself to people?
Hi, yeah. Welcome everybody. I was not able to be on this session and I'm kind of old hand at this anyway. I'm jealous of all you people who are just getting into it now. It's so fun and there are so many, many opportunities. My name is Kim Lindsey. I'm the lead learning experience designer at Cinecraft Productions. We're in Cleveland, Ohio, and we are a for-hire company. Businesses come to us to make training. We don't really do academia. It's all businesses. And so if a company needs a course, no matter what it's on, they come to us, and we're among the vendors that they use. My job is writing, studying and writing. So getting to know the learner, studying the content, as someone mentioned earlier, the more the better, the more that give it to me all. And creating an information flow, doing writing, whatever is needed. And then we have a team of people that take it from there, whatever the thing is. But this is a wonderful, wonderful field. And it's creative, it's people oriented, and I'm just excited for you.
Aw. Well, and Kim also has the good fortune of working for probably one of the nicest people I've ever met on the face of the earth. His name is Dan Kecken, and he's the CEO of Cinecraft, and just a tremendous man, just really, really nice, very sweet. And also her company won at Demo Fest at DevLearn last year with a really cool video interaction they made for Home Depot. Wasn't that right, Home Depot?
Yeah, it was for it was Home Depot was the setting, but the actual company is Carrier.
Okay, gotcha.
But it was set in Home Depot, so both answers are right.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Well, thanks for joining me. I know I like did not, I just like, hey, I'll bring some people on. Jack, are you with us? Can you access us talk?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, sure can. So if you
Hi,
were with me
everybody.
on night 2, this was my co-pilot, and really glad that she came back. Can't speak enough good words about Jack Hutchinson. She's a
You're so funny.
successful business entrepreneur and is just killing it. So very proud to have both of these ladies in my network. They mean a lot to me. So
Thank you,
all right,
Kara.
so let's talk a little. Let's talk a little bit about your 30-day plan. So you've went through. Maybe you didn't come live. Maybe you have access to recordings. Maybe you don't have access to recordings. If you don't have access to recordings, I really hope and think that the resources I gave should give you a nice little head start. It should give you enough information to maybe get you started if you wanted to do the build something. So let's get started. So let's talk about this. So I actually broke it down in the various analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. And Kim, if you don't mind, I'm just going to mute you because I hear you typing. It's no big deal. I'm just going to mute you and I'll bring you back. Okay, so basically the first thing you'll want to do is you want to decide in your next 30 days what you want to build. So that's your first thing. Figure out what it is you want to build. Look for inspiration from anywhere. One of my like all-time cool things I would love to do is I would love to like build something about cats somehow in my learning experiences. I'm a huge cat person. I unfortunately lost my cat last month, but looking to become a cat mother soon in the future. So yeah, I think that would be really cool to have like some kind of tribute to my former cat in my learning portfolio. But you get inspiration from so many different places. And if you're really, really stuck and don't have a clue on where to get started, cannot recommend GoDesignSomething.co enough. So feel free to check that out. She's got great prompts on there. Plus, she's even got examples of things that you might want to consider when you're building it out. So great resource there for Go Design Something.
Can I add to that, Kara?
Please. And Kim, I'm going to unmute you because I want you to hop in too. So yeah, go ahead, Jack.
When you're thinking about creating your portfolio piece, don't just think about what you want to say. Think about who you want to say it to. Who do you want looking at your portfolio? What do you want them to think? What do you want the takeaways to be? What's your goal for your portfolio? Yes, it is about showing people what you can do, but ultimately there is a goal, whether it's get a new job, get a promotion, whatever it is that you want. Like our friend John Hill just went through 52 weeks of doing the storyline challenges. And his goal is to build up his portfolio, build up his skills, because he wants to be an articulate hero. So what do you want to do and who do you want to say it to? I think that's the key when you're putting together your portfolio piece. Thank you, Kara.
I would also say that if you pick something to write your example about, you can use that same example. And you might have already said this in the course, which I'm sorry, I don't know. You can use that same example, make a video about it, make an audio about it, an e-learning course with different kinds of interactivity, make a job aid or an information piece. So it's not like it's I better pick something really good, but just know that you can get more mileage out of that than just your one-time thing. Then you have all your research already done and all your planning. So then you just leverage that and you can add to your portfolio more easily.
So smart. And yeah, kind of what I was hoping to do was to give them multiple options in the portfolio. Because one thing that I don't see a lot of people do, but I think is really important, and Kim and Jack, I know you can both probably talk to this better than I can. But when you're looking to hire consultants or work with other instructional designers, a lot of times you see these beautiful polished portfolios. But then when you talk to them, you find out that maybe they had one little piece of one little page over there. And so what I was hoping through this is if they build out like an analysis document, that you would see the questions that they would potentially ask. If you could see their storyboard process, that could tell you a little bit about
Mhm.
what they're thinking and maybe their script. And then of course, the piece, right? What is the learning experience? And then also talk about how would I implement this? Where would I put it? What does that look like? And how am I evaluating this pup? I mean, if somebody has all that in an artifact, that really tells a story. I mean, what do you all think?
Exactly. And in addition to what you're saying, Kara, if you're using something that is a cleaned out piece, so you've taken away all the branding and you've made it so that it's generic, but it's something that you might have used even on the job, if you can capture statistics and put those statistics with your portfolio item, this should really tell the full story of why that portfolio piece is there to begin with.
Love that.
And I think that can be very helpful.
I agree. I totally agree.
All right, so you picked your prompts, you got the perfect prompt, you've already like worked through the analysis, so you can use some of those base questions that I took from Dr. Michael Allen's book. Maybe you might have some of your own that you want to throw in there, which is absolutely great, but you want to, as you're building this out, to get as much information as you can about this topic, because remember, you don't want to be your own subject matter expert. But cautionary tale, if you're pulling in content, if you're curating, good ethics, again, I'm trying to talk about good ethics through this. Give credit. So if you're using it from a different site, give credit, even if you're doing Wikipedia. So in the past, I've like taught people how to use articulate storyline. Just like in the evening, we go to like the Wikipedia page of the day, and then we'll go through and like build out a sample module on like the Arctic hare or whatever the random like page of the day is. But then we credit Wikipedia for the content because we're copying and pasting it over. So again, good ethics. You just want to make sure that you give credit where credit is due. And while you're doing that, you also want to think about the visuals and clips. So we talked a little bit about, and I showed two different ways to storyboard, one without those images and one with the images. Because sometimes depending, if you have a budget, then yeah, you could probably buy that really high resolution stock video or photo that's just absolutely perfect for what you wrote. But if you're like a lot of people, again, champagne taste on a tap water budget, you don't have that. So you have to source out, you have to find those videos, those clips. You might even have to make your own. And again, I really wish JRock could have came in to the boxes, because he's a master of building his own assets in PowerPoint.
Oh yeah.
You have to be a little bit creative, but again, that takes time. And so you really need to make sure that's part of your process as you're going through it, and make sure that that's something that you consider. And again, you may get the sign off on the stakeholders, and you may see that maybe they don't like an image, or maybe that image doesn't really represent what that concept is. And that's okay. You're going to have some give and take as you're going throughout. So just make sure that you plan for that through that design phase. Any thoughts on that? Jack or Kim, you will hop in and say anything about design before I go to development?
You know me, I always have a thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
So thank you, Kara, for letting me share. Kara did a great job of pulling in assets, and she listed those assets in the resources. So you'll be able to see them. You can grab those free resources. They're fabulous. Something that you might want to consider is start relationship building now with people that you might want to be working with in the future. So what do I mean by that? So a couple of years ago, I was on a Slack group, and there was this guy there who introduced himself and said he was a voiceover artist. And I thought, hey, I'm in eLearning. I am, always needing voiceover talent. I'm going to reach out and see if I can get his portfolio. Well, it ended up that was Josh Risser, and he did the voiceover for the beginning part of Kara's event that she did with Alex. And if not for that relationship, there are a number of opportunities that have come for both of us that we've shared with each other. This is the time now. If there's somebody who wants to break into voiceover, if you know somebody who wants to be a graphic designer, give them an opportunity to make your stuff better by contributing. And like Kara says, give them the credit where credit is due. You might have the great ideas and you might not be able to use Photoshop. I can't use Photoshop or Illustrator. That's why I pay someone else to do that, right? Because that's not my strength. I know my strength, I know my limitations. I hope you can recognize yours and find people to fill in those gaps for you or with you, and you're going to have great friends and colleagues for the rest of your career.
I would say also, if you try to link with somebody, if you try to link with me on LinkedIn, I'm not on there very often, so don't feel bad. Just be patient, and I'll get on there and link with you eventually. Just identify yourself for all of us as having been involved in this, so that we know it's someone who we have a connection with already.
Yeah, great point. And again, I cannot stress to you the value of your network. Late bloomer. I mean, when I was at Amazon, I didn't network at all because it was like, I work at Amazon. Who else do I need to network with? But then when I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and I only knew my husband, I found out pretty quickly I needed a network of people. Even though I could still talk to my former colleagues, it just wasn't the same. And I'm very grateful that I, took it seriously, and I've met these beautiful ladies, and I've met people from all over the world that does this. And I just think that is so cool.
Tell them about your Twitter following, and how you started. She went from like 0 to what, like 18,000 in a year or something. I mean, this lady knows. She knows.
No, stop. It's not a big deal.
True.
Not a big deal. All right, JRock, I tell you what, how about I do bring you in, and then I can actually drop this down because we have this shared and we can talk it through. So yeah, let me go ahead and bring JRock in too. Yeah, because I want him to talk a little bit about the way that he builds out assets. And again, success is the best team sport in the world. So if you are successful and you have people that help get you there, they also share in that success. Probably, I will say, hands down, my favorite thing about doing this has been just how excited that our two voiceover gentlemen, Josh and David, have been. So, I mean, it's really rough for them a lot of times. I mean, they will send something out and get rejected or whatever. But the fact that they just got free publicity and they were so giving and generous with their time too, and it helps them. I mean, that's what it's all about. Speaking of help, you want to introduce yourself, JRock?
Yes, my name is Jonathan Rock. Kara started calling me JRock, and now everybody calls me that. So be careful. If she gives you a nickname, it will stick. I am from the corporate side. I work at a company called Zoetis, which is like Pfizer for animals. All of our pharmaceutical products are for creatures that you can either pet or eat, petables and edibles. And so most of the stuff that I deal with is LMS administration and creating compliance training or safety training and that kind of thing. So as you're thinking about what kind of projects to go after in your portfolios, if you already can demonstrate that you are comfortable with, researching and creating things that can meet those business needs, because some of the training that's out there, it's like, oh, we're just going to create this smorgasbord and people can take it if they need it. Like there's the whole, leadership development or sales, but there's also a big part of the industry that's like, we have got to check a box for the Food and Drug Administration. They want to see that we're training on good manufacturing practices. So that's one possible topic. Research good manufacturing practices, pick a portion of that, like flow of equipment through a building or pest control or something like that, and just create something small that's just targeted at that, so that when you're applying and you're sending people there, someone that's got that in mind, that's important to them, they can say, oh, this person knows how to do compliance training, that kind of thing. The other tip I'd have about your portfolio is the actual target audience for a portfolio piece is not the same as a student. You don't want to create it like a lot of people that say, oh, well, I've got this stuff, but it's proprietary. I can't really use it. Well, people browsing your website aren't going to want to take a, 30 to 45 minute e-learning anyway. They're not going to go through all of it to see the good bits. So you want to self-edit. What was the part that was really interactive? I was really proud of this interaction. I'll just make one little quick blip showing how I do drag and drop, or how I, deal with, a selectable avatar, something like that. So you can do these quick, short, bite-sized pieces that are smaller and quicker for you to put out. It puts your best foot forward and kind of maybe showcase the thing that you want to do. Like if there's something you're like, well, I could do this if I had to, but it's not the funnest thing in the world. Maybe that doesn't go in the portfolio. Maybe like I want to be a magnet for the kind of work that I want to do.
Absolutely. If you want to see this man work his magic, I have a link to, I consider the magnum opus of him putting out there, walking through an awesome course that he built and how he did it in PowerPoint, built out the assets. But JRock, I did tell one of your little stories one night, but I actually left your name out. But I hope you don't mind me telling it again, because I do think it's an important lesson. So I was telling them about, a lot of times you do compliance training, and one of the things that is kind of a barrier, if you will, for you is you have to have multiple layers of people kind of signing off on your stuff. So like legal and marketing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, do you ever feel like your creativity is a little stifled by that?
Oh yeah, for sure. You've got to make everyone happy. And like there was a course that I built. I would have loved to just put it out there and let everyone take it because I was so proud of it. It took me about a year to put together. But yeah, this is showing proprietary stuff that, you got to worry about trade secrets. Like that's another thing for corporate is like if there's a way that they do things that's a competitive advantage, they don't want anyone being able to just access it and stuff. So yeah, and anytime lawyers get involved, they're like super fun governors. So that is cute, Jack. You got that little dogus. We actually, not to be too off topic, but we have a baby fawn in our backyard right now. There's like a little sandbox under the kid swing set, and it's just like we're like, don't touch it. It has no scent. Leave it be, and it's just sitting there blinking. Sorry, that was random, but
you're fine. Yeah. So we got Peaches joining us from Canada. We have JoJo joining us from Cleveland. It just makes my heart happy. If my Palpatine was still alive, he would be here too. He would always come on camera anytime I was doing a stream. But yeah, Peaches,
whether you wanted him to or not.
Yeah, even if I want, yeah, he just always had to be the center of attention. But I miss him. But hopefully again, the plan that I built out for you all, the 30-day plan, I just wanted to put it out there. And then really the last thing that, yeah, Palpatine Azrael was his full name because he looked like Azrael from the Smurfs, and Palpatine because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. His brother's name was Darth Kidius, and Darth passed away before Palpy did, unfortunately. But my husband did not like Darth, but everyone loved Palpy. I mean, he was just a gentle giant. But anyway, long story short, if you are looking to do this, my biggest recommendation, and I'm sure all of the folks in the box will agree with me, if you do go on this journey and build out something from start to finish, write about it, reflect about it. I cannot tell you how much success I've seen Jonathan Hill get from that by working out loud, by sharing his process, and just getting the attention of people. And people will be cheering you on, and people will be saying, keep going, this is great. And sometimes that's the motivation you need. I needed that boost during this series because like I told Alex Stiles, I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm done. And he's like, that's not the Kara North I know. You need to keep going. So you need that. And people are here that are going to support you and keep you going on that. So I'm going to hop into the questions. and we can go ahead and I can pass it around the boxes because my opinion shouldn't be the only one that matters, right? Okay, so Anu asked a great question about in a multi-module e-learning course, after the needs analysis, do you chalk out the curriculum of the course before storyboarding? Can you talk a little bit about the workflow of a multi-module course in a corporate setting? I'm not going to touch that on corporate. I can tell you higher ed pretty easily, but if anybody wants to pop in on that for corporate, Kim, I know you answered it in text there. But JRock, Jack, do either of you have thoughts about multi-module of how you would scope that out?
Did you want to go first, JRock?
Sure. So from the way that I do it at work, we usually start at the top down. We start with the curriculum. Basically the reason that we have our curriculum is it's considered like a bucket, right, of the minimum requirements of training, education, experience, or any combination thereof that enables somebody to perform a task unsupervised. So e-learning is a part of that, instructor-led training, videos, SOPs are huge for us, standard operating procedures, because you got to look at that document not just as here's a bunch of instructions on how to do something, but also this is us giving our word to the people that will be using our products in all the countries that we sell products in, that this is how we do it every single time. To the degree that if you come up with a safer, faster, better way to do it, you can't switch until your change to the standard operating procedure has made its way through document review. Once everyone signs off on it, then you can do it the new way, but you still have to do it the way that the SOP says, because it's not just a how-to. This is us giving our word. This is how we do it. And then the other part of it is what's called an OJT, an on-the-job training, which is if it's something that's observable. It's not just head knowledge. It's a task that you can do. That's one-on-one. It's a document lining out all the steps to do the task. And then there's 3 columns. There's demonstration. Did the expert show you how to do it? There's practice. Did you get a chance to do it yourself with them there to help you? And then there's performance, which is, your coach steps back and crosses their arms and watches you do it. And you have to be able to do it on your own without any help. So those are all part of the curriculum. So a multi-module course would be part of that, but it wouldn't be the first thing. And then we'd look at what, curriculum was. It'd be like, what are the minimum requirements for this person to do this job? And then what is the best way to be sure? Because if it's just something where it's just, in the LMS say, I confirm I read and understood. If it's something that's a little more, you need more assurance that they have understood it, that's when e-learning can come in, because you can expose them to the information and then you can put quizzes in there and test them and say, well, I know that they didn't just scroll to the bottom and click yes, that like they actually had to pass a quiz. And so that's why one of the things Kara gets into with how good are your assessment questions. She has a course called Multiple Choice Mayhem that gets into, is it just immediately obvious which is the right answer based on, how long it is, or, if for your questions that have all of the above or none of the above, is that only included in the question when it is the right answer, stuff like that. But yeah, we would be keeping that all in mind of how can I use this curriculum to prove to an auditor that this person is qualified to be doing the job unsupervised. And so that's where the strategy would go in for the multiple modules. I do like the idea of doing not just a one and done, but multiple modules, time gated, spaced repetition, that kind of thing. So yeah, hopefully I didn't take all the things that Jack might have wanted to say.
Not even close. I'm like thinking there's almost zero overlap between what you're going to say and what I'm going to say. So that's really good. Okay. Depending on how deep you want to get into the multiple modules and what your module framework is going to look like, you might have a topic, and I'm actually going to use the one I'm doing right now, which is the Occupational Health and Safety Act of Ontario. It's a big, boring compliance act. Totally boring. We're making it 2 modules. And we're breaking it down in terms of content distribution. So learning the idea behind what the act is, the history of the act, because they actually have to know the history of the act to see how they apply the act on the job as a manager or supervisor. So it is actually, it's boring compliance stuff, but it's important. We're putting all of that in, making a module. And the module is as long as it needs to be. I don't think it's too long. Most compliance courses are pretty long, but this is structured in such a way that when we looked at how do we want to break the module up into pieces or sections versus multiple modules, how do we want the learning to be structured so that it makes sense to cover an area, a topic, as completely as possible, and then move on. The second module is applying those principles on the job. And so it's basically a supervisor walking through how to do their monthly and annual workplace checklist so that they can make sure that their workplace is safe and that their employees are safe, because that's what it's all about. And so we looked at, again, how did we organize the content when we distributed it in the first part? How did we share the information out? And the second part is being broken down, and it could be almost mini modules on their own. They could stand alone. If we took them out and said, this is one situation, it can stand alone, great. They can take it out and they can put it in the LMS if they want to put it in the LMS and just have them go through the case of the slip and fall, or go through the case of the something lab, some funny name about the lab, you know, where they've spilled chemicals and they got stuff all over the place and they're eating and drinking at their workstations. So, you know, those are standalone items. They don't take long. So yeah, JRock, you and I didn't actually cross at all. So yeah, yours is way more corporate-y.
No, I appreciate it because I think Anu wanted kind of that workflow. So hearing kind of both of you all break that down, hopefully that was helpful, Anu. And I'm teasing her. She's a JRock fan in the chat. It's okay. I've been there. I've done the same thing with the chat before. That's no problem.
Everybody loves JRock.
I have two little things.
Yeah, Kim, go ahead.
First thing is on a current project right now, we have actually flipped, and this is an instructor-led training, like a classroom setting. We flipped information because we realized that the client wanted stuff more towards the top that the attendees would not be interested in. So they would zone out, and then they get to the part that's really important to them, which is, you know, actual equipment, manipulation. So we've moved the stuff that they're not interested in down later. And so you might have situations like that where you're having to think of your learners and advocate for them. You know, what is more interesting and what is more needful for them to know. And I think the others have said that too. Another thing is on e-learning, what I'll often find is whether it's one course or a multitude of courses, the subject matter expert will want all the information on screen one. Screen one. It has to, and it's like, where do you loop in? No, they have to know this, but they have to know that, but then they have to know that. And it's a loop like, no, we need a way in. So that's another, see, you guys are, okay, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, it's true though. It's so true.
JRock's seen a couple of PowerPoints like that lately.
Okay, 8-point font.
Get it all in there, right? All right, I do want to be cognizant of time because it is a little bit over the time, but I do want to get to the rest of the questions. So I'll try to answer these pretty speed roundy, but then also pop it off to everybody here in the boxes. Cheryl, I love this question. So I'm going to approach it from the tightwad perspective of this. So what are your thoughts about attending ATD virtual conference and DevLearn and others? The expense is what hindered me. What do you think is most important or for those conferences? So here's my hot take. I'm a conference junkie. I love them. I want to go to all of them. I want to be there. But I also hold on to $1 till the eagle cries. I'm a tightwad, okay? And again, working where I used to, I didn't have a big budget. So I would think of creative ways of how I could get to conferences. So I would make deals with my manager saying, you all don't have to pay for me to go. but if you let me count this as work time and I don't have to take vacation time, you don't have to, I'll figure out a way to get there. And that works very well for me. And then I would bring back resources for the team and whatever. But here's my pro tip for ATD, International Conference and DevLearn and all these other ones. But speak. Yep. That's the easiest way to get to go to a conference for free. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Kara, what do I have to speak on? And actually, you know, the 3 people in these boxes have actually said that to me, because I've told them to speak at conferences, and they've said the exact same thing to me. Well, what do I have to speak on, Kara? Well, as Tim Slade would say, you are a expert in your own experiences. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have a really big gift right now. And I loved what Kim said when she came on about, you know, that you're new, it's exciting. Somebody like me, I've been around the block a while, right? And I don't have the fresh eyes that you all have. And I think it would be a standing room session, or, you know, the big session at a conference. If somebody new walks through 10 things I learned my first year as an instructional designer, or how I became an instructional designer during COVID, or something like that. I mean, people would really love to hear your experiences because there's so many other people that are going through the exact same thing that you are. So that's my biggest tip. You want to speak, but then there's other things too. So for ATD ICE, if that one ever is in person again, you can volunteer. So I volunteered at the ATD ICE last year. I was a volunteer manager on Oprah Day. It was chaos, but I loved every minute of it. So if you volunteer to help at the conference, you get a free registration. So there's always ways to get there, but of course you have to figure out airfare, you have to figure out whatever. I usually have multiple roommates when I go places. At DevLearn, I had 2 roommates because, you know, it was way easier to split it. So that's kind of my take. Kim, looked like you wanted to say something, so if you want to go ahead and pop on.
You know, it keeps on.
You're muted.
Am I here now?
Yeah.
Okay. It was, maybe there's a lot of people on here. Good thing. The only thing that I was thinking I might be able to speak at a conference that Dan would be okay with is a topic, and I want to get the group's feedback here, is help, my boss is younger than me. Or something like that, because that's I've been dealing, you know, that's been my whole writing career, and I seem to be pretty good at it. And learning from, if I wasn't able to learn from people younger than me, I would know nothing. So so does it sound like a good idea to you guys? Okay, maybe I'll work that up. Thank you for letting me leverage your sessions, Kara.
Oh yeah, totally. Hey JRock, why don't you talk about the first time you spoke at a conference?
Okay, well, as far as attending conferences, definitely I was super cheap, and I looked for what's nearby. I live in Michigan, so I lucked out that the XAPI cohort has a finale meeting in Chelsea, Michigan, which is in driving distance. And through TLDcast, I got to know Kara, and she told me to come down to Innovate, which was a conference that I could go to at The Ohio State University. I didn't speak at that one. I got myself in enough trouble just being an attendee. But then she was like, okay, you shared with me this e-learning you made, and I think there's something there that you could share and teach people about. And so after some nudging and encouragement and arm twisting, she was like, come on down, you know, share what you got. And so for me, that the value, I mean, there were some amazing presentations there. I got to see Joe Suarez talk about the history of e-learning. I got to see Jack talking about what do you do with your e-learning that's just kind of sitting out there? How often do you do a periodic review of your e-learning and that kind of stuff? So awesome stuff. But for me, more valuable was getting to meet Kim and getting to meet other people in the industry. I don't know how you guys are dealing, you know, what your situation is, but I'm the only guy doing this at my company. I was like the unicorn working in with around a bunch of horses, and they're all like, "What's that thing on your face?" You know. So it was the value of finding your tribe. I think outweighs a lot of the knowledge that you may get by attending some of the sessions and that kind of stuff. So I'd say, first of all, and this is advice that I got from Kara, treat LinkedIn, treat Twitter, treat these things as a conference.
Yeah.
Sure, you know how you're reacting, and make sure you're reaching out to people. And I mean, it's great. I'm getting the invitations on LinkedIn, and yeah, please keep them coming. But don't just connect with someone on LinkedIn and maybe like troll and watch their posts, but like.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what you do. But you message me and you respond, and that was, I mean, that was kind of, I'd say Kara grew me from a bean, because I was just out there in my own little world, and I was looking for, I started getting more involved in social because I was looking for role models. I was like, I don't have anyone here that can show me the ropes. I need people that have, broken the ice that I'm trying to navigate here. And so I think Kara was the first one after a TLD cast. She had shared something at their at the conference, and she was looking for feedback. How do you think that went? And I remember I was sitting there waiting to get an oil change, and it was taking forever. And so I started, texting back and forth with her on my phone, and we found we had a lot of stuff in common. And I found I had a lot of stuff I could learn from her, and she's been super encouraging and helpful in introducing me around. So I say she grew me from a bean, because I was completely unknown. And she was like, hey, he did this thing that's kind of cool. I'm going to introduce him to these people and that kind of stuff. Another good friend of mine, John Hill, that I met him in a Jolt Ola webinar talking about gamification of e-learning and that kind of stuff. So like when you see people that are doing something you think is cool, don't just like click the thumbs up and like it. Send them a message and say, hey, you did this and I really appreciated it. And maybe ask a question, because it's the friendships that really are the avenue for how you're going to get plugged in, and how you're going to, someone's going to be like, hey, I'm doing this freelance side job, but I can't handle this other one that I got asked about. Would you be willing to help with that? Or, would you, someone asked me to do this. I don't really do it, but it seems right up your alley. That's a lot more business will come that way, I think, than like trying to advertise on LinkedIn or things like that. So I don't know. Sorry if I took way more than my time for that, but it's been a great experience for me just getting plugged into this community. And everybody on this screen I've met in person, and they are super awesome.
I'm all embarrassed. Go ahead, Jack.
So virtual versus in person is something you need to consider too. There's a lot of back channel stuff that happens at conferences. Kara is the queen of tweeting out at a conference. I love the way Kara thinks and the way she can multitask and share the information at the same time as she's taking it in. Because I'm that person with the notebook and I have to write it out by hand. So, there's no tweeting at a conference for me. But there are things, I'm rather an introvert, which you probably would never know, but I am quite an introvert. I prefer to be in my own space by myself. I don't mind, communicating with other people and stuff, talking. However, being at a conference like DevLearn, I was so overwhelmed by the sheer number of people that attend that conference. There were 3,500 attendees, my first conference. And it was hard. It was hard to get around. It was hard to get a seat in a session. It was hard to know what sessions to go to. I had more meaningful conversation in the hallway and at lunch and outside of the event than I got as learning through the conference. And that's on me, because it's how I best managed to get things out of the conference. But it's a DevLearn is a wonderful conference. I'm not going to fib. But there are so many opportunities, and with COVID, who knows what's going to happen. If you can attend a virtual conference and be as engaged as you are in the chat with us right now, you'll get so much out of it, because that side chat, and I've heard Kara say it before too, when you're on these crowdcasts, when you're on these presentations, there's so much happening in the side chat and so much learning going on over there, sharing, etc. it's hard to sometimes stay on task because you just want to, oh, there's a great point by somebody in the chat. We want to talk about it now. And you go off on a tangent. So
Or
be as
somebody's
engaged
deliberately distracting in the chat
like
me.
you. Yeah, you're the king of that. So, but, you know, be engaged no matter where you are. Be engaged. And if that engagement is the hallway conversations on the side of the conference or at lunch, as long as you're engaged and you're learning something from someone else or you're sharing something with someone else, then I think it doesn't matter whether the conference is in person or online. That's my point.
Agreed.
And don't be
Great
afraid to
points.
be yourself.
Well, embarrassing.
You know, just let your personality show through. You know, if you're engaged and you're positive and you want to learn and you want to make a contribution and share something of your own, I mean, your attitude will show through, and that's going to mean a lot.
That's true too. Yeah, because when you meet some people that you may follow online and you meet them in person, you might find out they're not who you thought they were. I had that experience twice last year, and that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, next question. How do you catch statistics in a portfolio piece? Jack, I think this one might be to you, because didn't you say something about the stats and value? Do you want to pop off with that one?
So I'd like a little bit of clarification, though. Are you looking at statistics of who's looking at your portfolio, or are you looking at statistics that you're drawing from the learning experience that you created so that you can share the outcomes of that learning with somebody who's looking at your portfolio piece? Two different things. I can't really speak to the website, but that would be built into your Google Analytics or whatever it is that you're going to use. But from the flip side, you have to know what your outcome is before you create a learning, because if you don't have an outcome, you don't have learning. Argue with me all you want. That's just it. So by the time someone's done the learning, what is the outcome you expect? What behavior change do you expect? What actions do you want them to take? Think about it this way. If you're a call center, you're creating learning for call centers, right? You're helping people to better resolve calls because the service desk manager says, you know what, we've got 50 calls coming in every hour. We have 5 CSRs. We need a reduction in calls coming in. How can we do that? So now you got to do your analysis, right? What's the real problem? What's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the behavior you're trying to change? Well, you don't want the customers calling service desk. So one of your analytics is, if it's successful, when you go through and you talk to that manager again in 6 months or a year, you're going to ask them, what are your statistics? How many calls are you getting? Have the calls reduced? Are you closing calls faster? The whole purpose of whatever it is you're training them to do is what you're going to be looking for results for. And that's your results as the ID, but it's also the business results, right? If the business isn't seeing results from what you do, then why are you there? You have to prove yourself. You have to show the value of being there. And I don't know, JRock's going to probably want to dispute this, but it is. You got to prove your value and show statistically that your training works, right? So you're going to meet that goal of reducing calls coming into the service desk, closing calls on the first point of contact rather than having them escalated. So that might mean your CSRs who first answer the phone need to be trained on 3 new products that your company has. Or they might have to have additional support materials available to them in a portal, right? So it's not just about the e-learning or it's about supporting documentation, it's about process, it's about all kinds of things. But if you know what you're looking for, if you know what the goal of the training was, and you can say, I solved the problem or I helped solve the problem, then you've got your analytics.
Go on, JRock. I see your face. Go on. I know you want to say something.
Well, no, she's absolutely right. That's what learning is at its best. Corporate learning is you prove your worth through supporting the bottom line. However, there are different you have different customers depending on what you're doing. I am not mapped in under sales. I'm not mapped in under HR. I'm mapped in under quality. And for them, the most important thing is compliance. And if I start talking too much about the stuff Jack just laid on you, everyone starts looking at my horn, right? So, there's definitely things you can do to take what your situation is and be a leader and move it towards that. Just don't be discouraged if when starting out, the people that what they're asking for from you. I mean, I I see your little emoji there, Ain. The first person that you may have to work for may come to you saying, I'm going to create this environmental safety course where we're talking about spills. And it used to be an instructor-led training that I had to do, and I don't want to do it every week, so I want you to make an e-learning out of it. And here's my 67 slides. And I want it to be locked down. Each one's bulleted with like horrible clip art. And I want you to lock the screen until enough time has passed that I know that they've read it, So that's where you can make a difference, right? You're thinking about the learner experience. If your customer, if all they care about is that the person was exposed to the information and they can prove that they can fog a mirror, that's a pretty low bar. But you don't just be an order taker. You be like the buffer between there, saying, okay, I know they've got to go through all of these slides, but do they have to go through them in order? Maybe I can put a little bit of interactivity here where I can take the 6 topics and just like have one screen where they get to choose what path they go down. And maybe they still have to do all of them. And like, it's still going to be something, that you're going to look back on and cringe, and you go ahead and you do it for the resume or whatever. But that you did what you could to make it a little more surprising, a little more interactive, a little more, force that, you want to activate that reticular activation system in their brain where you can make it have a better shot of being memorable, So what Jack said is absolutely 100%, and you will be a better ID if you keep that stuff in mind. Just don't get your feelings hurt if the people asking you to make stuff don't care about that crap right off the bat. Is that what you expected me to say, Jack? We're keeping it real here.
She did. Yeah, no, I think all of that is really important. So thank you both for that. This one is a little bit complicated, but I will push it out here and get everybody's feedback. So what is your opinion on investing in the EIDL program? So that's Dr. Robin Sargent's program. I have a master in ed tech and experience being an ID. I question if a program like that would help me think any differently. What are your thoughts about it? So here's what I will say, then I'll pass it off to everyone else. I will abstain from answering this question because I do have an EIDL course on assessment. So I don't think ethically I should answer that because I don't want to sway people one way or the other. So that's what I'm going to say. What do you all want to say?
You should go ahead and rep your swag, girl. I have nothing to say about it because I have not ever been a part of it, or I am like allergic to Facebook, so it's hard for me to even get near. But I do appreciate Dr. Robin Sargent, and I think she's a very interesting person, and I've not heard anything bad about it. I'll put it that way.
I'm with JRock. I've never done it. I've seen it advertised, but I've been an ID for a long time. So for me to go back and do that might be a little redundant. Or you can always pick stuff up. I always learn something every time I'm on a session. So, but yeah, so I'm not able to really speak to what she's offering.
And I've never heard of it until just this moment. So I have nothing to add. So I'm not a Facebook person. So
here's, I guess, my take for evaluation on that. Do your homework, because I will say there is another program that I saw that I called out on LinkedIn for being like basically trying to bamboozle people. It was somebody saying that they had their own proprietary method of creating instruction. And so then I looked at their stuff, and no offense, it was hot garbage. It totally was. And I sent the person a message and I said, is this the standard of what, is this just like to show like a before sample? She's like, oh no, this is it. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not good. And so actually Will Tallheimer, the guy that wrote the book that I love, asked me to come on his podcast to talk about it. And of course I was like all starstruck to talk about it. But I do think that as somebody who went through higher education and formally did get trained in this, but also was an accidental instructional designer before I backfilled to get my credentials, I do think depending on where you go to school, there is a huge gap in this. I know that I went to a research institution, they taught theories, and my professors had never been instructional designers. And that's the truth. And I think there's a huge gap. And so anything that can kind of help you fill that gap, I think might be valuable. Other things you may want to look at too. I know Alex has his course, the eLearning launch, if you want to check that out. The Allen Academy, Dr. Michael Allen, who is the godfather of eLearning, like the OG, the OG of eLearning, has the Allen Academy. They're also great too. ATD might have some stuff, but Tim Slade, that's another one too. Big things I would ask if you're researching: one, what's in it for me? So ask, what are people making? What does the curriculum look like? Don't make me sign up for an account just to look at your crap. Like, give it to me straight. What am I getting out of it? And two, what have people done afterwards? So if they're going to train to be an instructional designer, are people getting jobs? Ask them. You have the right. Again, I'm very tight with my money. I don't just give it away. So do your due diligence on it. That's all I'm gonna say on it. Yeah, and there is a refund sometimes. I don't know if you all know Tommy Seelock, but he actually went on one of Alex's off the cuffs and talked about how horrible his experience was in higher education, that he went back to get a master's and he had such a horrible professor. He actually got a refund on his tuition. He fought for it because he did not get any of the stuff that he needed to be an instructional designer. I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard. It's so cool. All right, two more questions. So this one's from Lisa. So she is transitioning to ID and e-learning and doesn't have any real world experience in the area. Trying to figure out what kind of samples to put in yet to be created portfolios. Any suggestions on how to get started with samples to apply for a job? I'm hoping that this helps what we went through. So looking at these different prompts and all of that, I hope that helps. But also, again, it sounds like you all want to stick together and kind of work out loud, support each other, get feedback from each other, connect with the people that I've brought in the boxes, the people that have been supportive through this. I'm very choosy in the company that I keep, we'll put it that way. So the people that I've included in this, the people that are in the boxes, are good people that would be more than happy to talk with you, help you, and help guide you. So don't feel like you're alone in that, Lisa. We definitely want to help you with that because there's so many people that just don't know how to get started. Go ahead, Kim. What were you going to say?
Lisa, are you the person, I think, in the chat that said you're med tech or a former med tech, which I am. I had 15 years in that field. And definitely, if you can think of, if you know how to use documentation, what is the procedure to follow, or a policy or SOP, like JRock was talking about earlier. You're very familiar with those things. You have topics. It's just a matter of choosing one or choosing two, and then creating some of the deliverables the same way that you have gone through in this course. I would love to get connected with you on LinkedIn. Everybody, my email is kim@cinecraft.com. You can see my name right there, kim@cinecraft.com. I'm working 40 hours a week at least on my day jobs, but I'll try to help out however I can. But yeah, definitely, Lisa, if you make a few deliverables, if you look also at the kind of jobs that you are interested in, not just necessarily that you're likely to get, and you see, are they e-learning? Is it computer-based training, or is it, more job aids, or is it more webinars? Look at the kinds of jobs that you are targeting or that seem to appeal to you, and make the deliverables that would be appropriate for those. I don't know if that sounds like a good idea to the other of you, but that certainly occurs to me.
I'll tell you the same thing I told Jonathan Hill a little over a year ago, and that's if you were wanting to create e-learning, look at Articulate Storyline, Articulate 360, get a free trial of that, and get involved in the e-learning heroes challenges, because they are very targeted towards, okay, we're just going to do one thing. Like maybe this one's going to be about using dials or sliders, or maybe this one's going to be about using panels. They have like a targeted thing. It's fun. You take part. You are going to create a portfolio piece, and it's going to be very visible because you're going to be posting it, and you're going to see what other people in the field do. And that does three things. First of all, it makes you to, push the dang button and create something that you're going to be able to use for your portfolio. The second thing is it's going to be visible to other people that care about this stuff like we do. And you're going to make connections through that. And it's going to get eyes on your stuff if you're hoping. I mean, it's going to be way more of a signal boost than just throwing it up on a website somewhere, because the people that are in the competition are going to be, looking at your stuff to see what you made as opposed to what they did, and you'll make friends there. And the people that are looking for people that do what we do are going to be trolling that thing, saying, who's the up and coming, who's the next thing. And I mean, for Jonathan Hill, he was already making stuff. Like, he showed me just a few of the things that he was making for his job, and it blew my mind. And I was like, the people gotta know, bro, because he's got some crazy skills. And so I was like, get involved with this. Now, I didn't tell him to do 52 straight weeks of the thing. That was all on him. I just said, hey, you might want to check this out. That guy, he's amazing. He's diligent. He's creative, and passionate about it. But I would give you the same advice. Don't just make stuff in a corner in the dark. Make the stuff. And so if you have Storyline, that's the one I'd suggest. I think they are open to people using other, if you're using, Lectora or the Adobe one, Captivate, they will still let you throw in on their things. And then also just the other thing that Jonathan Hill did that was amazing was he kind of blogged his journey, did a little quick post about each of the things he built and how he built it, and put some pro tips in there. And yeah, now he's the expert.
Yeah. And if you do that, please remember your dear friend Kara, because that's what I'm doing my dissertation about. So if you participate in them, please reach out to me and I can interview you for my dissertation, and I'd really appreciate it. So all right. Jack, do you have anything to add on that one? No? Okay. All right. Last two questions. This one is from the amazing Toddy, who helped me night one. So thanks for being here again, Toddy. We appreciate you. So do you ever feel like it's really tough to get buy-in for true innovation in your jobs? Yeah. I don't know about you all. Definitely my previous job for sure. I'm hoping to have better success in my new job because I'm in leadership, but we'll kind of see what happens with that. What are your all's thoughts? Don't all speak at once.
Well, my boss is very hands-off. Like, when the thing that I created that got Kara's attention was this Stranger Things based e-learning that I submitted it to him, and then I was nervous. I was like, is he going to be like, hey, this is pretty cool? Or is he going to be, who's this huge nerd on my payroll or what? Like, so I was like, I was walking down for my one-on-one. We're at like opposite ends of the building. And I was like, oh, how's this going to go? And when I came in, he was playing it and he had a big smile on his face. I was like, oh, thank God. But it was a very divisive course. The people that liked it, like, stopped me in the hall and gushed and said, why can't they all be like this? And the people that didn't are like, I know what you were trying to do. Please don't ever do it again. So I got support from my manager, just probably because he just didn't want to deal with it, but also because he's a supporting guy, but might have also been the whole unicorn horse thing. But like, yeah, you will get support, and you will also have some upstream to swim, and you'll have to explain to people why you did it the way you did. And just because I thought it was cool is not a good answer.
Yeah, I think all innovation most of the time costs money. So you need to be prepared. Your organization needs to be prepared. And sometimes that means planning 2 or 3 years out, maybe even 5. I was with the City of Toronto for a long time. And one of the reasons I left is because we're so tied with what we could do, what we could buy, what software we could use for our e-learning. Just this year, they purchased Storyline. So, I left because I needed to get back to doing stuff without my hands tied all the time. And that's how I felt. So my hands were constantly tied. Didn't matter what I tried to do. There was no budget. There was no software. There was no support. There was no time to learn it. And that's the other thing. When you're trying to innovate and you're trying to do new things, you have to learn it. Because if you're gonna drive the change, you need to own it. So that's hard too, but always had pushback, making suggestions. There was only one group that I worked with that was very progressive, the fire team, very progressive. So
Kim, if you want to pop in, I will let you, but I just want to let folks know we are joined right now by one of the guild masters himself. Nick Floro is in the house. If you don't know who Nick Floro is, you definitely should follow him. He is not only one of the nicest people I've ever met, but he's also one of 2 people I cannot live tweet because he talks so fast. But he has so much great knowledge and skills. If you're starting on your ID journey, follow this man. He has so many different apps and everything that he has, and follow him. He's fantastic. Super excited. I saw him. I was like, oh my gosh, Nick Floro's here. So just wanna call out that he's here, and you all should follow him. So, and he probably, please put your stuff in the chat, Nick, so people can follow you because you're awesome. Kim, did you have anything to say on that particular question? Okay. All right. We'll wrap this up because we have been going and going and going and going and going. And I know people are just like, oh my gosh. All right. Last question that we have from Cheryl is, I transitioned into an ID position in corporate after 12 years on the job as an engineer. Good for you. That's awesome. I self-studied 2 years before transitioning and took an ATD e-learning course. I was considering more courses through ATD. Do you recommend? All right. Kim, do you want to start this one off? Because I felt bad we were all kind of chatting. Do you want to talk about maybe ATD and what your thoughts are on maybe courses and stuff?
That's fine. I mean, if I didn't raise my hand, I didn't have anything more to contribute than what you all have said, which is excellent. When I transitioned into instructional design from technical writing, and before that from laboratory medicine, med tech, and my degree's in zoology. And so basically everything I've had is either learned on the job or through some course or other. I have taken, I think, 3 classes from ATD, and they were valuable. The e-learning ones were definitely valuable. I found that by the time I got to the basics of instructional design 1, that I already knew all that stuff. So I guess I misread what the course description was. I would recommend the course by Kathy Moore. I'm forgetting what it's called now. I think she's an excellent thought leader. Her blog is wonderful. I took several courses from Ray Jimenez about scenario-based learning and story-based learning, and that was valuable to me. I think he's condensed that down into 1 course. But see, these are one-offs, and you get a certificate at the end, and not a degree. And between that, following people's blogs, following some podcasts, and there's more and more excellent podcasts. By the way, Jack has an excellent podcast. Kara and Joe Suarez have an excellent podcast. And there's too many to actually listen to in a day. That was basically a lot of informal and a couple of classes, and that's where I've got where I'm at now, and it has been enough. But I don't work in the tools, and I don't do graphics. I do verbiage, and so if that was different, then I would probably go and take an Articulate class or something like that. And then again, it would be a spot type of a thing. But just because I've been able to scrape by without a formal education doesn't mean that necessarily a good thing. So is that what you expected? Yes, Kara?
I think that's great. Again, my big thing is if you're going to take the time and money to invest in something, then you make sure they also work for you. So make sure that these courses you get feedback on. You don't just want to sit there and catch flies in your mouth and get another certificate for your wall. It's not going to help you. So make sure whatever it is that you do select through ATD, through these various vendors. Ray is great. I've also consulted for him in the past. So of course I'm going to say everything he does is great too. But yeah, go ahead, Kim. Yeah, pop in.
How could I forget this? I just took a little tiny course on multiple choice questions from Patty Shank. I mean, the Patty Shank. It was very affordable. It was wonderful. Had excellent feedback, discussion board, and assignments. And I would highly recommend looking into her courses and her books.
Yeah. That's the great call out. JRock mentioned earlier the XAPI cohort. Megan Torrance puts that on. That's a great way to get involved and learn a little bit. And again, that doesn't cost anything, again, except your time. There's a lot of good stuff out there. But again, me being the person I am, holding the dollar till the eagle cries, I'm very frugal and I'm very picky about where that money goes. So do your due diligence, do your homework. It took me 9 months to buy a car. Not kidding you. I could not make up my mind. I just, I'm that person. But yeah, I think that's really important. Jack or JRock, any last words on courses?
YouTube is free and a lot of cool stuff is on there. There's a lot of really luminary people we can follow and they are sharing their stuff. Who's the Anna Sabramowitz has a great YouTube channel for podcasts. In addition to the three awesome ones, or the two awesome ones mentioned, the third, like these are the three: Instructional Redesign, The Lounge, and the eLearning guys. Those are like all I listen to when I mow, is those podcasts. But I would also say, don't feel like you need to be an expert before you can do something. You can spend a lot of time just learning and taking courses and soaking it in and feeling kind of FOMO that, oh, they're doing VR. I don't do anything with VR. Do I need to learn A-frame and all that stuff? And maybe this is just the way that I learn, but I can't get the whole thing first. I need to have a project. And for me, I learn how to do the thing I'm trying to do. And then the next thing you're trying to do, maybe some of it overlaps and you can use it, and you have to learn a few more things rather than trying to learn all of instructional design before you build your first course. So I would say learn just enough to be dangerous and then just start making something, and don't worry about making a bad one. Make that your goal. I'm going to make a bad one first. I'm going to get the bad one out of the way and just free yourself to get the practice of creating something, and just give yourself the ability to make the bad one and then make the next one better and then keep improving that way. And then we don't have to worry about always making something perfect right off the bat because, yeah, it's art, it's business. It should be fun. This is a very fun thing to do with your life. I'm glad that I somehow found myself in this niche. And yeah, you're going to curse at your screen sometimes and it's going to be frustrating and stuff, but it's the good kind of frustrating that you grow from. So
Absolutely.
Don't just watch too much courses and videos and never make anything. Like, get in there, roll your sleeves up and get your elbows muddy.
JRock,
Agreed.
there is no T in niche.
That's good.
Nice. Love it.
No T in niche.
All right. Well, again, this is a wrap. I don't know how to top that as an ending point. This has just been amazing. I've appreciated everybody's time. I've streamed for almost 10 hours this whole long weekend, and you all came along for the ride. So thank you so much. I hope it helps. I might be doing this again, so kind of next steps for me. I do defend my PhD candidacy tomorrow, so we'll see what happens with that. Please send good vibes, mojo, that I pass. And if I do pass, then I do have to start writing like my dissertation and all that. So my time will be a little bit more limited, but I am always on social media. I do want to be involved. I do want to help you all. I do want to continue to see what you're doing, putting it out there. And I think maybe what I might do for the next series is I want to be a little bit more focused on where you want to go. So I do think it's a different skill set to be a higher ed instructional designer than a corporate instructional designer. So I think bringing people on, talking about that, talking about the pros and the cons about it, I think is really, really helpful. And yeah, I think that might be the next thing that I do. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you all for just everything. Most of you have just been a true delight. I've really enjoyed getting to know a lot of you. And again, just know that if you're here, you're putting the time in, there is a place for you in this profession. The profession needs more and more people. I think that we're going to continue to grow. I think we're going to continue to have our time in the sun throughout all of this. And you are at the right place at the right time. I have really enjoyed doing this. I can't imagine, like JRock said, doing anything else with my life. Like, I am a junkie about this stuff. And yeah, it's been really fun. So if you have any feedback for me, as long as you're not calling me names, because I did get called several names over the weekend, but I have, again, I'm over it. Please let me know if you have any feedback, things I can do to improve it, things that you wanted to see more on, because I built this as it was going. This was totally flying the ship as, it's going along. And hopefully you all have access to the resources. And if you need anything else in the meantime, please reach out to all of us. Hopefully we are a unit and we can continue to work together. And yeah, any other parting words, any part of wisdom or anything anybody can say? No? Okay.
Left it all on the field.
Left it all on the field. Yeah. I'm just excited Nick Floro's here. Like, I'm still just like fangirling that he is here, because he is just like one of the top. I mean, well, maybe the top in my mind, but yeah, I'm just like nerding out that Nick Floro's here, so I just need to calm down a little bit. Anyway, all right. Well, oh, thank you for the camels. That makes me happy. Yay, camels. All right, my mom did try to FaceTime me during this, so I might just want to see what she wanted. But thank you all. Let me know. Hi, JoJo. Thanks for joining us, and glad that you came too. And stay safe, stay well, work out loud. You do have a place here. We need you. We need you now more than ever. And we're really glad that you've decided to be an instructional designer, and good luck on your path. And follow me for what's next. You never know about me. Might just get another wild hair next Thursday and decide to stream all weekend. Never know. Maybe not though. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.